things? Can I like
Oh,
present?
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna show.
Neil, that was the longest intro in the world because I'm like, can we just get this started already?
That intro is way too long for what
Oh
I'm
my
trying to
gosh,
do.
20 seconds was ridiculous. All right, so first of all, welcome everybody. This is Slice of Pie Tipsy Tuesday. I am so excited because my new BFF, Neil, is here
We're
with
like
me.
old friends now. We go way
We
back.
are way old. First of all, I am beyond honored that you're here. For those of y'all who are joining the live or the replay, drop your comments and we'll come back to you. Y'all, please love, like, and share. But I just want to make sure that I said up front that I am so humbled that you even considered to join this platform. I'm a huge fan, and I'm trying to get it all out now because after this it goes downhill.
It goes downhill from no, it goes uphill from here. No.
Oh my gosh. But y'all, Neil, and I have my notes because I was like, I'm not gonna mess this up. I want to make sure that people know the quality of folks that I have on this show. But Neil is the co-founder and CEO of Voltage Holding. He owns interest in a lot of entities. He's been operating for quite some time. I think it's more than 9 years now, so maybe 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost 10 years. His clients have sold over 100 million plus. That's 1000 and the M word, million plus. And I am so excited to talk. I do want to hear about, the Voltage Business Builders podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Google. But today we're going to get in, and this is part one. So we're going to talk to the grown folks in the room, and we're going to talk about your journey building wealth, and we're just going to let this conversation go. So for those of y'all who are joining late or joining the live or joining the replay, there's going to be plenty of information here, and I'm going to be circulating this for quite some time, so don't worry about that. So Neil, let me just take a breath and say, you're here.
We made it. I was actually, as we mentioned a minute ago in the green room, I was a little bit afraid I was going to be behind because I had to drop my girls off at the 4-H meeting, and I was zipping back over here to get to the call, and I made it just in time. So I'm excited. I'm honored to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, Shelly, to talk with you and your community, and I don't know, spread some love and joy, and maybe some bomb knowledge, and maybe, who knows, a few laughter, shares, a few laughs. Who knows? We'll figure out what we do, right?
Absolutely. So can you share a little bit about your journey? Because I think a lot of times people look at the end, like they're looking at where you are now and don't have a good full picture of, the actual journey. So for those who might even be considering a business like yourself, or just, how did you get to where you are? What is your journey? How did you get to Voltage?
In simple terms, it's about a 30-year journey with to success overnight, as they say, right? So it looks to everybody like it just happened, and then I've been at this for 30 years. I'm not that old, but a lot has changed since the internet came online. I got involved in computers and CompuServe at my friend's house because we couldn't afford a computer when I was 16. And so at that level, because his dad worked for the government, they had access to systems and computers and things like that. I started to learn about gaming and business and some things online with dial-ups and stuff that was just, wow. It blew my mind. And I was like, this is incredible. I got to learn how to do this and figure out where and when to do it. Now, life is always a series of plans that have mishaps and trials and walls, and you change directions and you go over or under it, or maybe grab a plane and go, or you grab a bulldozer and try to knock that wall down. But one way or another, there's a series of walls in life that lead us around different directions and paths. And hopefully we always try to end up back where we wanted to be. But that doesn't always happen. And sometimes it has to be intentional, and sometimes it takes risk. Sometimes as life gets a little bit harder, you get dug in. And that's kind of my experience as I dug into the world, I dug into life, ran into a series of heartaches and mishaps and financial issues and all kinds of stuff that would have jeopardized any kind of ability to be successful. But I think the difference that I learned was I discovered that I'm a fighter. When it comes to fight or flight, I don't run, I fight, and even to the detriment of myself sometimes. And so that's, a learning lesson of wisdom in life has led me past that. And one of those first roadblocks I ran into is I had really geared my life to going to be a fighter pilot. I was going to enter the Air Force. I was ready to do it. I wanted to fight. And so the end result was I was too big to fit in the cockpit. So when I got done with the services, they said, I'm sorry, you can't be a fighter pilot. You won't fit in the jets. And I'm like, what? You've got to be kidding me. So they said, no, you can fly the C-130s. You can fly transport. You can fly the things. You just won't be a fighter jet. I'm like, all or nothing, man.
Right.
So then I started to backpedal because I had not planned to go to college or do any of that kind of stuff. And I hadn't done any of the life track and high school stuff. I hadn't filled out any scholarship applications. I wasn't planning to go to Ivy League schools, and I wasn't hedging my whole life around the education system. I was kind of be done after high school. So it turns out I needed another path, didn't know what to do. So I started filling out all the scholarship forms. Turns out I'm actually kind of good at music. So I had enough experience there to get almost all of my scholarship money from my music. And because of that, I went to college. But I didn't want to go there, remember? So because I never really wanted to be there. So I flunked out twice and had to be readmitted. By the time I got to my third year, I said, the heck with this. This is stifling. This is crazy. Why did I even do this? But I'd recognized that the growth of the internet that came on at that point was where I wanted to go. I'd actually left my third year and thought, hey, I will go sit on the front doorstep of Jeff Bezos' house if I have to, because I'm going to get a job in technology and the internet. That didn't exactly work. So I realized I should probably go get a job, which I did. So I rode the corporate ladder for almost 15 years. It found out very quickly some very tough lessons about what corporate life versus entrepreneurialism is. Okay, they are definitely two different mindsets, two different track, completely different. Yes. One feels safe because, well, it's corporate and there's supposed to be money there. The other one is entrepreneurial. Well, it doesn't feel so safe because it's not always guaranteed there's going to be money there. But the wins on both sides can be great if you know what you're doing. They can be very bad if you don't know what you're doing. And you can be led both of those paths into terrible outcomes. Okay. What I recognized eventually, though, was as I worked through that path and worked to be tenacious, some simple patterns started to develop in my life. And one of them was who I know would get me there and what I would know would keep me there. So as long as I was making those connections and networking, even if I didn't know what the heck I was doing, I needed to go figure it out. So I taught myself programming because I said I could be a programmer. So I ended up getting into Sprint supply chain as a programmer. And then I taught myself code in the evenings. So in the process of teaching myself how to do that, I got really good at it. And I learned, I'd get up, I'd go to work, I'd do the things I applied the night before, and then I would go back and develop. Well, I got pretty good at it. But I also recognized I didn't want to live in that environment. But an opportunity created itself, and I went after that. And it was Sprint was basically saying, hey, we're about to create this new division and launch this thing called the mobile phone. And we're going to push it into market, and we're looking for people internal who want to apply, either contractors or employees. Put your name in the ring and let's see what happens. Well, imagine that I got in. Got a full-time job in Sprint. I got to be on the knowledge team that was running their websites. And suddenly I'm a manager at 21 of a 5-person team whose average age was 40 and up. So that was fun. And they're like, here's 40,000 web pages. Go turn this into some knowledge because we're launching this mobile phone and we need to support these reps in the field. There's only about 2,500 of them. And I was the 5,028th employee, roughly somewhere in there. And so for the next 3 to 5 years, I figured it out. And I just pushed my way through there. And I launched and helped launch one of the first knowledge management systems inside of an enterprise. During Sprint's launch, we went from 5,000 to 80,000 employees. We went from 2,500 to 25,000 reps. So I got to see the growth of the mobile phone division from the inside out, which was fun. Did really well with that. And Sprint basically was working a project with IBM and got to connect with some of the IBMers. Started hanging out and saying, what's up? What's going on? Made some friends with them. And one of them said, hey, there's a job opening over here. I think you should go check it out. Turns out he already put his name in for me. And so when I showed up at the job, it was a 10-minute handshake in Armonk, New York. And I got into IBM. Still no degree, just working the business. So I spent almost 5 years in IBM. And because of that, we were building these big enterprise systems. And I got to sit in the Wall Street boards and got to be a part of some amazing corporations and sat in the board seats and stuff. And it was just amazing. So I got to go do all that. But it was the kind of pinnacle of that top. And I was like, well, what's next? Because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I said, I got to jump. And it just so happens that in 2007, they said, you know what, we're going to push you out if you don't jump. And that means you're going to be moved to Argentina or you're going to quit for early retirement. And I said, I'm out of here. I'm like, dang it, we're going. Because my disc personality, is the D personality. And that is I will jump off of a bridge or a cliff and I will build it on the way down. I don't care how you figure it out. We're going to figure it out on the way down. That's my personality, right? I will just jump in and then figure out how to make it work. So I did that. And I started in 2007 in my own series of companies. And it's a long road of financial ups and opportunities and crashes, even a bankruptcy in there, and even crashed a marriage during all that period of time because I was just an idiot. That's another story. but I learned a lot about life
Yeah.
and struggles and opportunities, and really got back into the mode of online commerce, lead generation, and then physical product generation and online selling products. And that led me to Amazon as it was just growing up and higher in buying this company called FBA Fulfilled. They changed the name to Fulfilled by Amazon, but really it was an infrastructure company that was helping deliver products to your doorstep. Amazon said, hey, we can buy it faster than we can build it, and we'll turn it into what's called Amazon FBA. And then that was getting the product and shipping it to the customer, but allowing third-party sellers to sell those products on their platform. Pretty cool, right? So it was pretty innovative. They've gone from books to physical products to opening up their entire marketplace so that anybody could sell products through the marketplace. Turns out that's gotten to be about 70%, almost 70 to 80% of their marketplace now is third-party sellers, right? Amazon's actually a minority seller. Most people don't understand that. So that created enormous opportunity. So I jumped into Amazon and never looked back again. With that disc personality, I was just like, woohoo. And so I went full bore into Amazon. It's now a decade later. I've stayed very close to that platform and its opportunities to leverage that infrastructure and not have employees and warehouses. And it allowed me to build what I call a lifestyle as a business. So I really wanted my lifestyle. You and I talked a little bit about that. I wanted to be with my kids every day. I wanted to not travel anymore. My last year at IBM was 200 days on the road. And I'm like, I am done with this. Like I'm taking airplanes and it's like an Indian bus with goats and sheep hanging off the side. I'm getting so tired of this, right? Like this is ridiculous. And so I didn't want that in my life. I didn't want to travel unless I had to. You know, I wanted to be with my kids every day. I wanted to see my wife. I wanted to be in an environment that was conducive to health and wealth and living and enjoying the environment around us. And so I looked to build that, and e-commerce was the mechanism that allowed that to happen for me. And so I've stayed very heavily leveraged into that.
Wow, I love that. I think one of the things that I'm picking up from your journey is, and you mentioned this word several times about risk, and you're not risk averse. There's a lot of folks who are afraid to even make a decision, afraid to make a move. And I mean, I'm in the mindset of nothing tried, nothing failed, nothing tried, nothing done. So the least that I could do for myself is to just test it out and give it 100% and see what happens.
Yes.
How did you get to with the mindset shift? Because again, we haven't even touched on the mechanics of XYZ. You have to have the right mindset before you even don't waste your time. Don't waste our time. Okay?
It starts with kind of figuring out who you are. And through challenges and adversity, I discovered where my boundaries were personally and professionally and physically. I kind of understood where those were. I was willing to take the risks that allowed me to fail or create opportunities or learn where those boundaries are. So many people stay stagnant and think that they can analyze their way out of failure. They can analyze their way out of hardship. They can figure out a way that's going to make the perfect path to XYZ at the end of the road. And the answer is never that way. Life is a spaghetti bowl.
Yeah.
Matter is it's just a giant plate of spaghetti. And all we're trying to do in life is literally straighten out one of those noodles, right? And constantly trying to avoid risk.
Yes.
At every step of the way. Why is it about the last 4 years? Avoid risk or death.
Yes.
Why has it been about jumping out and starting your own business? Avoid risk, because we're afraid of failure, or afraid of bankruptcy. Everything we do, into how we drive our cars or buying newer cars, and we're not okay with older ones because we're afraid we're going to break down on the side of the road, and that's fear-based risk. And we live our life in that mode, and then we find a bunch of people around us who all empathize with us and become, our peer group of negative mindset Nellies.
Right.
And then we just live in it, and that's how we live. That doesn't have to be that way. Right. There's a totally different way of thinking about it, but you got to be able to break out of that. It's scarcity. All right. And understand what true abundance looks like. Okay. And the abundance you want is on the other side of scarcity. You just have to be willing to take the risk to jump over that pond. And there's sharks in that pond. And that's what everybody's afraid of. They're afraid of the sharks. You can see what pond you're on, and you can see the Bahama Island sitting over there that you want to go set on. But when you hop in your boat, the first thing you're thinking of is all the sharks in the water. And you think somehow they're magically going to find those sharks to get to Bahama Beach. It's not how it works at all, right? You're going to have to face that adversity. You might have been in the water. You might have to bang a few sharks on the head, or, you might get bit a few times. but doesn't mean you're going to die. Doesn't mean the worst thing impossible is going to happen. I mean, everybody thinks failure and financial is the biggest risk. It's not, right? At the end of the day, it's your health. All right.
Yeah.
They really say health is wealth, and that is true. And we talked a little bit about wealth and profit and the differences between those. I can be very rich in profit and very poor in wealth.
Yeah.
And you have to expect the differences for who you are. You have to understand where you're willing to fit into that. And you can't just look at the world and say, I've been on Facebook all day and all these people are having all this success and I don't, because now you're operating in scarcity. So get off of it.
That's right.
Right. It typically is something that's banging and beating down our mindset every day. And I just learned to train myself away from that. I learned to organize myself around people who are more positive, who were willing to take risks. I looked for those folks. I sought them out. I sought to be in their peer groups. And that's led me to be a better leader, a better husband, a better father, better entrepreneur. And it's led me to opportunities now to lead others through that and overcome those issues. Because if you want to talk about divorce, I can talk about it. If you want to talk about bankruptcy, let's get down with that. If you want to talk about building a business, great. If you want to talk about the difficulties in running people in a business, we can talk about that. Every inclination of every problem you've ever faced, I already ran over. Right? Wow. You death in the family, it doesn't matter. Like my wife is extremely sick and almost died multiple times, and I've had to deal with that in our life, right? And the possibility of being a dad with like 4 kids under the age of 5 without a wife. Right? I've had to face that fear right down. And there's a book I read once upon a time called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways by Susan Jeffries. And that has become a mantra of my life. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Why? Because it takes courage to start something, but it takes tenacity and consistency to stick with it until success.
I love that. I'm dropping that in the chat, y'all. Taking notes for myself.
Taking notes.
Feel the fear and do it anyways. I love that. I love that.
Gotta feel that fear, right? Because it's not going to kill you. Now, as a faith believer, if I die, I know where I'm going. So that's the worst that's going to happen. Okay, for me, that's how I assess risk. Right? What's the worst that can happen is the second question I always ask myself. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I've been alone as a road warrior after a divorce with no home, traveling the road, living out of a suitcase, because that's what I had to do to put my life back on track again. I have been bankrupt and taken a pregnant wife down and watched our car get repossessed at 10 o'clock at night while she's crying, going, what's happening? While dealing with that personal issue and financial issue and the burden of that. And then having to watch the medical issues that overtook her and realize I might be alone for the rest of my life with kids. I've had to face that. Okay. So the issue is, what's the worst that can happen? Right? The worst that can happen is you give up. That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
Right? You give up until death. But the end of the line is, for me, I mean, somebody said this earlier, and I'm going to read it because he said it, not me. And it was very astute. And I heard this today and I'm like, dang, I do not want to miss that. He said, moments before my death, I won't check balances in my bank accounts, but I will be checking memory banks for my life accounts.
Oh, read that again. That is awesome.
I'm like, that was just, boo, I get chills when I read it, right? Like, moments before death, I won't check balances in my bank accounts, but I will check memory banks for my life account.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Wasn't that insightful? I read that and I'm like, dang, I cannot forget that, because that is super powerful. That. And it immediately reminded me of a joke I read on a meme once, and it literally said, you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. Right? Yeah. And I'm like, you cannot take all this with you. So if your goal is only accumulation and wealth and profit only equals financial prosperity, you're going to be way disappointed in life. Constantly and continuously. You're going to search that through your corporate life and you're not going to get there. You're going to search it through your entrepreneurial life and you're still not going to get there, because that's an inner peace.
Yes.
And then I read that, I'm like, yeah, the inner peace says that's what I want to be doing moments before my death. I don't want to be wondering, did I do well enough financially? Is everybody going to be okay? Right? I want to be thinking about the things that are most important. And it literally starts now. It starts before you take the path. It starts before you gain the wealth, because that is a movement past the scarcity mindset. And it really is one of the biggest things that holds everyone up. Limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs are the biggest factor. Well, I can't do that because I don't have the money. Well, I can't do that because I don't know how to do that. Well, I can't do that because my wife says I can't, or my husband says we don't have the money, or we don't have the opportunity. We don't have the time to do it. I don't know what I would do if I could do it anyways. Like, all of those questions are negative.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah. You know, something that you hit on a couple of things. First off, having that community for me. So I launched LCM Group April 1st last year. And I mean, a lot of amazing things have happened, and I'm ecstatic about the growth and all of those things. But it didn't occur to me until I started having some conversations with people where I was saying it out loud that I intend to be profitable. That you know what I mean. Like when I was saying these things out loud, that I was always thinking that I'm meant to have a successful business because I intend to have scholarships and endowments, things like that.
Yep.
That there were some people who were connected to me that were saying, well, why can't you just be happy with what you have?
Right.
Or you're just not content. Or, you know what I mean? Or
that's all scarcity mindset talking back at you in a reflection. That's all it's doing.
It's crazy. And so as you're talking about like reshaping the community, even a community of support, I actually found that some of those people were being removed. Like, so as soon as they started echoing it, I was like, okay, we're done. I'm in a different
talk a little bit less now about those things.
I'm gonna lose you on Facebook. But I definitely agree that you do have to have a community of, if not for nothing, like-minded folks who are going to encourage you to get past the fear.
And you know where it starts? At home.
It starts at home.
It starts at home. And if you look at those folks and you access their network of family and real close connections, you see the environment, the familia environment that they're living in to determine whether or not they have a broken mindset enabled by broken mindsets.
That's right.
Right.
And then they use that term. What's that term? It's a generational curse. Well, I'm not cursed. I'm blessed.
Right. There are generational curses, and it usually comes from, conditioning in environments that create that problem. It really is.
Pattern thinking.
And there is pattern thinking of conditioning in there. We have to train our minds and train our brains away from those things, right? 21 days to create a habit. If you can't say and enable yourself to be okay over 21 days of reinforcement, of 21 days of thinking of more prosperity of your life, of your situation, of your relationship.
You just got to
amen. We're preaching tonight. If you can't get that in your life, you're not going to get it from others.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
You aren't. Trust me. The world is not here to lift us up. The world is here to tell us all of our problems, to bring in their negative mindsets. And you can find those communities. You can eventually get to them. You can eventually figure out who they are and where to stay away from. I happen to be at one, as I mentioned last week, talking at an event in Alabama, in Birmingham, with a group called the Wealth Without Wall Street group. And they have a podcast and they have a group event and their inner circle. I had the honor of speaking in front of them about e-commerce. And this is a group of people who've overcome that. They are in their abundant mindsets. And it's very rare at times to get into a whole group of people like that. And to listen to them and listen to what they're doing and all the different ways people are interacting and find out, many of them have very similar lifestyles. Many of them follow in line. And as I discovered this, they fall in line as a little bit more conservative with who I am. And they homeschool. Many of them did. I didn't recognize how many of them did until I started talking with people. And they just think about money and wealth differently because wealth to them isn't all prosperity gain. It's wealth of life. Right. Yeah. And I touched a little bit more on that. Right. During the green room, but it has to do with what wealth actually is, what I call the three pillars that I live my life by: fun, people, and profit. If I can't have fun with what I'm doing, and I don't enjoy it, then I got to stop it. And I certainly wasn't having fun at IBM. I mean, it was cool for a little bit, but it was not fun. And what it actually broke my fun was when I was sitting around a group with the other consultants around dinner, guys and women who were about 20 to 30 years older than me, listening to them pontificate about the negatives in their life. They couldn't see their kids. Their wife was this. They had to travel that. And it was all negative. And I looked at it and I'm like, good Lord, I got to get out of here. This is not fun, right? There's no joy. Where's the joy? No laughter, no fun. I'm like, I'm out. Good people. People can make things fun. They can make them bad. You need to be with good people. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to leave them, kick them out of your life, or hurt them, or betray them, or belittle them, or be mean about where they are and where their walk is. It just means you may not be walking with them.
Yeah, no longer in my circle.
Right? You don't have to walk in the same circle with them anymore. All right? I can love you, but I don't have to like you. So that's an important reminder. And the last one is profit. Profit can't just be financial. If profit is only financial and then it borders into prosperity, you're going to lose. Trust me, I've been there. That's what led to my bankruptcy. Okay. There was no profit in that, not just financially, but for me personally. And it damaged a whole lot of things that I finally learned how to do and had to then refocus, retrain, and move myself away from it and kind of reinvent away from that because that was a really big roadblock. But the point of the matter is, if you're not profiting in yourself with having fun and people, there will be no physical profit. There will be no wealth profit. There'll be no financial profit. You just won't profit.
Wow. Okay? I love that.
All unprofitable, right? And then you'll just squalor in your own profit. That sucks too, right? Because there's no fun at the end of that rope.
Yeah.
There's only hardship.
Can you talk about the DISC assessment?
Yes. So
what is that?
Well, it's basically just a personality test to determine who you are in business or life and how you approach things as an introvert or an extrovert, whether you're somebody who is more like a people person, which is a lot like you, or you're somebody who's more like task oriented and maybe leans a little bit more to the introvert side. Right? You could be an introvert, which honestly is more me than you might realize, but can be an
I am too. I keep telling people I'm actually a very shy person and they don't believe me.
No. That's why I live on 45 acres in the country. I live in an office with my family here and my homeschool children, and I don't necessarily go into the town and do other things without people if I don't want to. I do people like this a lot, but I don't have to do people, like I want good people. I don't just need all people. Right?
Yes. I'm exactly the same way. Leave me in my library.
So there's going to be D, I, C, and S. And just break that down in simple terms. You're going to be somebody who is a dominant, a dynamic person. You're going to be on the influence or interactive side. You're going to have conscientious or compliance-based mentality, or you're going to have steadiness and social. Okay. So I want to show you the differences between those. Yeah. Okay. So I'm a D and I'm also an I. Okay. I know who I am. Who pairs well with me? Somebody who is an S and a C. Okay. And that is where my business partner of 10 years and I, okay, each of us in our minds make one complete mind, 1/3 mind. All right. Wow. It's like another person. He is not a D and an S. Okay. And I am not an I and a C. And when we operate in our lines, we become a whole disc.
I love that.
And because of that, we're one mind working together. And that's a unique partnership. And a lot of times you can find that in relationships, marriages. He just happens to be my business marriage. Now, if you did the assessment with my wife, you'd find it's very similar, right? And there's a reason why we're married and why she lets me do me and why I'm okay with the way she's more steadfast. And by the way, she's a BSN with an RN degree. And so she was very track, conscious, and steady, order, certificate. Made sense for her. Remember me, the guy who couldn't get and stay in college and failed out twice and was like, the hell with this, right? Excuse my language, but the heck with it. And didn't want to take that path and just felt so constricted and confined and like this is just not going to work. So you need to find that parity. You really do. And it could be in people that are in your peer group or not. But if you put two Ds together, you'll never get anything done.
Not going to work.
Nope, never going to get anything done, right? You need somebody who's okay being an operator and understands their place. They might be a little bit more introverted because of that, which is fine. But if they're paired up with an extrovert who likes to get out there and likes to make it happen, okay, those people will thrive in that environment as long as it's not them. So what does that mean? It means that people who usually will start things need to be courageous, okay? Will get things started, but because they don't have a steadfast control over their emotions and actions, task-based oriented activities, they're going to ultimately fail. Okay. So you can't have a pure entrepreneurial and an only business role unless they can backfill and are good at it and know their weaknesses. People who are in operations and control. That's why Musk does so well with what he does. An idea, a brainiac, a total D. And that doesn't sound right when I say it like that. And this is a family-oriented show, man. Keep it together. And he has all those people who run those organizations. He just got it, started it, adapted it. He wasn't even the only idea guy like at Tesla. He wasn't the idea guy per se. He took the idea and ran with it from two other guys who started the company, right? So that's just, know your lane, do your lane well, be okay with who you are. Don't let other people try to pull you out of your lane and say, well, you should be over here doing this, or Neil, you should be doing that, or Neil, why do you think like that? Or why do you talk like that? Or why do you act like that? And it's like, you know what? I don't care what you think because I know who I am. I figured it out.
You're operating in your lane.
I'm in my lane.
You're in your lane. And when you're in your lane, it's amazing. I have a couple of individuals who I've just met with just really this week for our first initial team meeting. So because I do understand what my lane is, I was like, in order for my business to grow, I do have to, I'm not a control freak in that way. So I need to make sure that I'm building it responsibly and bringing in the talent where you kind of need to. So that point about understanding who you are, and then I'm a happier me because I'm just doing the part that
Yep.
makes me happy, and they're doing what makes them happy, and together we're gonna rock it out.
Exactly.
So when you think about like shifting, so we're shifting from mindset to the DISC assessment. One of the things that we talked about in the green room was money as a tool versus risk. And so again, in the introduction I shared, Keisha's saying she's in her lane. One of the things that I shared in the intro was, look, there is wealth on this call, and it's not coming from my side of the room. I'm just gonna let you know, okay? Like, it's coming from Neil, okay? So, and I mean like true for real wealth. When you think about money as a tool versus a risk, I think that's something that those of us who are trying to achieve even a percentage of what you've done in your business really need to understand. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, in its simplest terms, if I've treated money like Dave Ramsey tells you, at a certain level, it's smart, but after that, you're completely missing the point, right?
Yes.
There's leveraged debt for activities that don't pursue life televisions and gambling or other nonsense with your money. And then there's debt leveraged in the business that has a growth potential. You track your numbers, you understand a return on that investment, and you leverage it wisely, okay? And these are things that you can't just guess on. These are things you actually have to do. These are things you need to be shown. Okay. And until you recognize that, what you will actually do is hoard it. Okay.
Right.
You'll hoard it. You'll put it in a 401k. You'll have it sitting there until you can't access it until you're 69. And by the way, the average lifespan between retirement and death is 11 years. I am not going to spend 11 years enjoying my life. That's one of the other things I learned about those guys at the table, right? They were all working for their financial things that aren't going to be accessible or attainable until like 20 and 30 and 40 years. I'm like, no, I got life now. I got kids now. I got business now. I got things to do now. Why am I going to lock that all up in like a 20 and 30 year deal, right? So I'm like, what are the alternatives? Which led me to that group and to thinking, and I gained access to that group and the people within it because I was already on that path, right? And so I just found those people and I leveraged that knowledge, and now it gives me much more insight and things that I can do and do better. And as I mentioned, I had gone bankrupt in a situation where I got too leveraged and too controlled into the money with not focusing on the proper things I should have been focused on, and was blinded by the opportunity. And it was a great opportunity no one's ever going to hear of. But at the end of that, I leveraged myself too far, right? And I took that risk just a little too hard. So it gave me a lane, a little bit of boundary to understand what to do. But at the end of it, I learned how to make money. I learned how to take money as a tool and apply it like a hammer to building a house. And when you do that, you recognize putting that money to use is the best thing you can do. At current inflation rates and the way things are changing, fiat currency is depreciating in your bank account every month. If you don't take it and try to put it to work and give yourself an opportunity to succeed, you're not going to outrun inflation. It is going to overrun you. So these are just tools. Money is just a tool. It can only be seen as that. It's not a matter of status and wealth, all right? Because I'm not going to buy a Ferrari, even though I can, and drive it up a dirt driveway just to make other people feel better about me.
Right.
I can't even get the dang thing up and down the road anyways, right? So, but the whole point is, what am I working for? What status? What level? What is that purpose behind it, right? And so this has just been a test over and over and over again. As we raised capital to purchase companies in 2019 through 2021, we had gone into home offices and raised capital and had two $50 million capital raises committed verbally that was going to go to paper to start purchasing companies. When I got to the end of that line, I recognized that was wrong. That was wrong. What am I pursuing? Why am I running after this? Why did I run so hard after this? Now that I've got it and I don't want it, I feel a little embarrassed by the whole situation. And I'm like, I'm going to kindly say no to all this. And all the people of Worldly Gain were like, you're an idiot. That's like, you're dumb. Like, what? Are you stupid? Are you mental? No, I got to the realization that money and tool was going to own me instead of me owning it.
Owning it. That's right.
Right. And so the actual reverse was going to happen, but blinded by that move, it created this problem. Now, other opportunities spun out of that, which is where Voltage Holdings originally came into the play, which what we do now in terms of investing in e-commerce companies, building them ourselves, acquiring them, or helping others build up theirs to sell them later on, or looking at even opening a different fund this year We're going to commit some funds to, and with a group of investors, to going out and purchasing these companies, but on a small amount, maybe 5 companies this year. The goal there is to move more slowly, more intrepidously, but not at the same level we were about to do, which would have literally taken my lifestyle as a business and turned it into a business where I had to try to fight to get my lifestyle back.
Yeah.
Right. And how many people out here are working for business to create a lifestyle that you're not going to obtain? And when you do, you will become a victim of it.
That's right.
Enslaved by it. And so what I challenge you to do, and learn from my mistakes, look at the lifestyle you want first, go after that lifestyle first, and then find your lane. Okay. Look at your investor DNA. Assume you know a bit more about your disc profile, or go take one and understand what you're capable of doing. Get after the lifestyle first, and then find that business or mechanism that works for you, and then start working that. And that will help you attain that lifestyle you're going for. But it starts with your mind. It starts with actually working it first. Okay? Then you don't become a slave to your business.
Yeah, that perspective. Yeah, because you're in a different driver's seat when you're right, when you're thinking about the lifestyle. Yeah, because there's a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs or business owners or whatever the flavor of the month is. And I can tell you, I have conversations with people and I'll ask them, like, why did you start this business? Right. And some of the responses are like, yeah, but I don't even see how this is going to end well, because you don't even have an idea of, I started, if the answer is, I started this business just because I hate my current job, then that ain't it.
No, you're actually in scarcity, right? And you don't really understand the nuances of those limiting beliefs. This is why I don't promote side hustles and hobbies. Okay.
Right.
The hobby businesses, because that is actually a limiting belief. You may not recognize it, but let me explain what that looks like. If I go and say, well, I just need an extra $2,000 a month, so I'm going to try a few hours of extra things in the evening or weekend to make up that extra $2,000 a month. And unless you absolutely need it, please don't understand, I'm not criticizing those who might need that extra money. That's not the point. The point is, though, you've already limited yourself to saying, I'm spending this much time and I'm only able to make or willing to make or can make this much money. So you are actually in a limiting scarcity belief. If you stay in that, okay, you're never going to actually achieve what you were after in the first place.
That's right. Which was some kind of financial freedom, except now you've tied up your
additional free time, limiting yourself to a few extra whatever.
Yes.
Okay. So unless you're willing to assume that may be my step 1, but step 2 really is my full commitment of energy, effort, time, capital, and mental, strength. Okay.
Yes.
To pursue that as a true business goal, you're just literally dipping your toes in the water, hoping that the lake will move to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many people stand on the edge of a lake trying to coax it over to them.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You got to jump in the lake.
That's true. And that's part of the risk, right? That is the mindset. Either you're all in or not. There are words that I don't use, and again, I get clowned by folks who've been at this much longer than me. But I even things like, I don't call myself a small business owner. I just say I'm a business owner. I don't, even the way that I speak or serve or present, I have to operate in a way that I'm solving a problem and this is the value, and I'm not going to just throw something out there just for the sake of, because at the end of the day, I know what it is that I'm trying to achieve. And between us, y'all, it's for my family. That's my motivation, right?
Family was my motivation too. Yep.
Yeah.
Family was my reason for lifestyle.
It's my family.
And I had the opportunity to find a woman later on when I got into my right brain and stopped at the wrong ambitious drive, the crap that crashed my first marriage. And I was an integral part of making that get destroyed. Everyone likes to say, well, it's all their fault, and blah, blah, blah. I take my responsibilities for being an idiot. But at the end of that, God blessed me with a woman who is a life partner, who is a free spirit in the way that she says, you know what, honey, I trust you. Just do what you're going to do. She's been through the bottom with me, and she's right at the top. And so she just says, you know what, whatever you want to do, you just go. And because of that, I'm enabled to be who I am. And that's a very important factor. I'm not fighting anything at home. She's the CEO of the home. She handles most of the homeschooling. I chip in when I can, and I'm enabling her to power our children and daughters forward. We have 4 daughters, and we homeschool them all. And we've done it for the last 9 years, right? And because of that, I would never regret any of the risk I ever took. Because now I'm involved in something much more bigger, something more kingdom building, something life driven. And because of that, again, fun, people, and profit. I'm seeing those things be realized in the bigger picture. And now I get to take more people along for the ride with me. And that's a blessing to me.
Oh my God. Well, you're a huge blessing. I know we're coming down to our last one. I try to run these for about 40 minutes because that's when we're hungry. But you shared so much incredible wisdom, and I know that people are going to appreciate it. I personally appreciate it. I've heard all the cues and I've heard everything you said, and I'm going to be watching the replay myself. I know you're coming back on Thursday because we wanted to do a spin on this for teens, and my daughter, she's 14,
Absolutely.
she'll join. So it's more than just saying creating wealth, but we do have to work on the mindset, and kids, especially nowadays, who think money is magic.
Money is magical, and the internet magic tree makes it happen, right? If I just put on YouTube, God forbid they create an OnlyFans. I mean, there's some nonsense that will
I know. YouTube is.
Oh, you can go to YouTube. Okay, don't go to OnlyFans. Seriously.
It's off the chain. Social media is it's off the chain right now. So y'all be careful where you post because it does come back. And if you try to build a business, we can Google you. We'll see everything.
No doubt about
Please
it.
manage your brand.
Yeah.
Oh
Take those cell phones and iPads away if you need to. Put them in a timeout.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna thank everybody. Hang out in our back after party green room. Where the real stars are. I'm trying to keep it together and be a grown up here, but I'm giddy. I'm so excited. We can't wait to have you back on Thursday. We're gonna tell these people bye, and then we're gonna hang out in the back room.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching.